According to Nielsen Research, the buying power of Black Americans is expected to exceed $1.5 trillion by 2021. Our buying power makes us one of the largest economies in the world. But on the flip side, Black Americans spend only a tiny percentage of their dollars supporting Black-owned businesses. We're diving into the topics of Black buying power and Black entrepreneurship with Marcus Davis, founder and owner of multiple Houston restaurants, and the host of Fish, Grits, and Politics. Deidre Mathis is the owner of Wander Stay Houston. Warren Brodneck, CEO of She's Happy Hair, and Dr. Crystal Moten is a curator with the National Museum of American History at the Smithsonian Institution. I'm Deborah Duncan, host of KHOU's Great Day Houston, and these are Cultural Conversations. So both of my parents died in their 90s. And I remember my mom always talking about Black businesses. She loved the time when they had the Black businesses. And I didn't understand what she was saying. She'd say there'd be the Black lawyer, the Black doctor, the Black boutique, the Black hair salon, all in one place. And I realized later what she was saying was that that was the empowerment that they had gotten when they all came together after slavery at one point, right? And actually established their own businesses because they couldn't go to others. That was kind of the unintended good side of what was happening with segregation. Were we ready for what would happen when desegregation came and our Black businesses suffered for that?
I think one of the things we typically don't consider when we think about the possibilities of integration are the impact that it had on a thriving Black community that was created as a result of Jim Crow segregation.
Their own economy,
right,
really.
their own separate economy. And so we have to remember that integration, yes, in terms of our dreams, unrealized dreams of racial equality was a step forward in that direction, but tons of Black professionals, Black business owners, Black community organizations, they lost out in a sense because of these integrative efforts. And so we have to consider what that impact was on the Black community economically when we think about integration.
This argument exists, right? It persists, actually. This idea of integration, good or bad. And the way I view it is integration is a tool that is supposed to be used in a certain way. And I don't see the idea of integration being the cause. I think the use of the tool is where the challenge exists. Because if you look at other segments of the population, the integration works well because the tool is used appropriately. White America used integration very well, right? They used it to go into the Black community and extract dollars out. And so we have to be mindful of the use of the tool. And to your question about...
I think that's part of the point is that were we prepared for that? I don't think you...
So here, when you talk about preparation, the preparation wasn't necessarily on the part of the African Americans. Preparation, the lack of preparation came from lack of access to capital, right? So part of integration wasn't just let me come to your lunch counter, but it's also allow me to participate in banking, right? Allow me to participate in other areas of the economy rather than just this little segment of the economy. There's a big pie out there, right? And the goal is for the pie to be divvied up, not just eaten by one group of people.
Well, and then just because legislation on one end is passed, there are other things that lagged, even just downright attitudes towards people. It took a long time to catch up to a lot of those laws. Okay, a lot of people will argue as well, and this happens in all communities across the board, that when you own a business and you hand it off to your children, or what do you teach your children about business, right? Sometimes that's lost. When you were growing up, were you taught about how to do business?
Absolutely not. My parents worked typical jobs, post office. So my dad didn't have the background to teach me how to start and run a business. So I had to do that on my own. And that's going to entrepreneurial classes, that's getting a degree, an MBA, making sure that I'm surrounding myself with people who can help me not only start the business, but stay in business. So you have to be very self-sufficient because, it's tough. It's tough.
You are a first. Tell people what I'm talking about.
I am the first African-American hostel owner in the United States, and hostels are shared accommodation spaces, mostly utilized by millennial travelers. All right, and for you, okay, so oftentimes even after that desegregation thing, you were in one of those areas where they said, well, the places where we kind of all stuck together was the hair salon, the church, right, and the restaurant that served that good old mama's food, that slappy mama food, right? Okay, so, but for you, what was your business sense growing up? Did you understand anything about entrepreneurship?
I don't think I understood it. I don't even think I knew what an entrepreneur was back then. I kind of associated when I look and think about conversations with my mom I would have, and she would say, like, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
And I just knew the businessman. Right.
Yeah.
But I knew the businessman, he had ways. He had ways where he drove a very nice car and he did well. He had ways where he didn't do so well, but he always bounced back. And I kind of like that independence of controlling your own destiny, and it always appealed to me.
Let's take a look at Black entrepreneurship by the numbers. In 2018, the top Black-owned companies in the U.S. generated $30 billion in revenue and provided jobs for more than 71,000 employees. 50% of all women-owned businesses were led by women of color. The top industries for Black-owned businesses include technology at 38%, manufacturing at 24%, food and beverage at 11%, construction at 4%, and media 2%. So where does the money come from to launch Black businesses? 15% of Black business owners acquire startup funds from bank business loans. 18% rely on personal credit cards. And a whopping 71% depend on personal and family savings. We've heard campaigns where we say, buy Black, buy Black. You have the money that you're giving away to others, support your own communities. Is it about buying Black today, or is it about just doing good business and being part of the free market?
I think it's a little of both. I think you definitely should buy Black if you're looking for a certain particular item and there's a Black entrepreneur, a Black business, you patronize it, but only if that business is doing good business. That's the thing that I think a lot of business owners forget about. I am not, and I'm a Black business owner, but I'm not gonna patronize a Black business just because you're Black. Right. You have to be a good business owner. You know, that means making sure that my food tastes good, making sure that my clothes come out right, making sure that everything goes well and very well put together.
And with that said, you have a business where people come to you because you're doing good business.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. Right, Marcus?
You know, I for anybody that knows me and knows our reputation, customer service is priority number one for us. But I get a little conflicted with this conversation about good business as it relates to the African American community, because we don't do that with the white community, right? We don't cloak all businesses. Well, I'm not going to these businesses because they're bad service and they're white, right? We only have this conversation about.
Well, I'm not going to bad ones.
I'm only going. Right.
Yeah.
But we say that. Yeah. We say that in our words, but in our work and our efforts, we don't display the same thing. We will say that a person gave us bad service, or discrimination is the ultimate form of bad service, right? And we'll talk about how someone had discriminatory practices, and then we'll go back there. So, you know, we lump these conversations of good business and Black business, or bad business and Black business together, unfortunately, and it's not a monolith, though.
Yeah. And I think one thing is also important to keep in mind is the meaning behind, the bigger meaning behind good and bad, right? Especially when you think about, as you mentioned, access to capital, right? What allows a business to be good? What allows a business to have quality in its product, in its presentation? Usually it's access to capital, right? What allows you to pay your workers a living wage, right? You have to have capital. When we think about the ways in which capital have been stratified in this country, in some ways, minority businesses could be at a disadvantage. And so it's really important to tease out, how does a business become a good or a bad business, and how is race related to that?
When you say capital, I want to make sure we include all forms of capital, monetary and experience.
Yes,
you know, for the African Americans, we've only been doing business in this nation absent Jim Crow for the last 50, 60 years.
And that was my point earlier, is that, you know, for you to pass something down generation to generation, you have to have had it to begin with, right?
And when I say good business, I'm just saying that so that Black entrepreneurs not out there saying, I'm gonna open this business and people are gonna flock to me because I'm Black. No, you still have to do good business. So, you know, it's not for me, a white or Black thing, because when I shop somewhere, I don't look and see who owns it. I just know that if I go somewhere and I get a good feeling or a good service, I'm more likely to tell a friend or spread the word or continue to patronize that business.
And when you asked about should we buy Black or seek to buy Black first, I honestly think we should. That's just my opinion on it. Because we have to understand, as Black business owners, a lot of people are intentionally not going to buy Black. And we understand the economic stake of Black economics. Like, if a lot of people aren't going to patronize us just because it's a Black-owned institution, then us as African Americans, we should first look for a Black option every time. I try my best at every dollar I spend, try to at least spend it with my people. And I understand how hard it is as a Black business owner, so I don't come in there with that theme of markets like, this is going to be a good business, this is going to be a good experience, because I know how hard it is just to keep your doors open and meet payroll.
Do do you think people actually look to see if it's owned? Do people come in and say, "Oh, cool restaurant. Is it owned by an African American?"
So-
or
so
your
you do-
hostel
you
say,
do
all the time.
Yeah, you do. You do.
I do.
So
We still do that.
amongst African Americans, yes, there is this plea to go and find black-owned business, and yes, there's this awareness to go and ask and look for. But going back
Well,
to
it makes us proud because
Right,
you know we
right,
work
right,
we
right.
work with stereotypes all the time.
Right.
Stereotypes are very strong, but it makes us proud when we walk in and you see this beautiful place, and
that's
it's like
doing
that's
well.
kind of cool.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, that's
right.
doing
but
well.
going back to Warren's point, listen, 100 years ago, Marcus Mosiah Garvey urged us to free ourselves from the oppressor by investing in our community, right? He launched Black Starship and tried to get African Americans to buy into this concept. 50 years later, that message was doubled down on by Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So when you ask, should we? Hell yes, we should. It's incumbent upon us. It is a must. As a matter of fact, there's absolutely no opportunity to alleviate oppression in this nation without us doing so.
And that brings us full circle to what I said before. My mom would always say it was this vibrant community where we didn't have to, apologize for walking into a business. We didn't have to be set aside when we walked into the business. There was a time when she would walk in and buy clothes that she couldn't try on in certain stores, and she said they had the freedom to do that in their community. So this is obviously one of those cultural conversations that could go on for a while. But thank you all very much for just scratching the tip of the iceberg with us.